YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. And man, doesn't it feel great to have a victory Monday? I mean, the world's just so much better. The Mountain Dew tastes better. The world seems crisper. Whatever you want to say. That's what the Lions have here today. They're 2-1 and in first place of the NFC North, building up a huge game this Thursday against the Green Bay Packers. If the Lions would have somehow dropped the ball, so to speak, and lost to Atlanta yesterday, what a different world this would be. We'd be talking about how Aaron Glenn needs to be fired. We'd be talking about this guy's a bust, that guy's a bust. Let's fire this person, cut that person, make this other person a starter. And that's the world of professional sports, especially in the NFL. Things can move and they can change quickly. A week ago, everybody was bemoaning the pass rush. Well, yesterday, 7 sacks. Where's Aiden Hutchinson? Well, yesterday, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. So not only has he gotten pressures all year long, but now well, as of yesterday, he got to the quarterback and made him pay. We talked about a lot of things in the last week about how the team's defense needed to adjust, needed to change, and that's what you got here today. Side note, I mentioned it in yesterday's post-game show. Man, Desmond Ridder is not an NFL quarterback, at least at this point in his career, and I thought that held true yesterday by the end of the game. Phil, what's going on? Working. All right, go Lions. Yes, thanks for that. Anywho, the Lions are in a great position now because, yes, they did get a couple, injuries yesterday. I think most of you saw that Matt Nelson bummed out an ankle, and then his replacement, Dan Skipper, who's only been back with the team a few days, also became injured. So Colby Sorensen had to come in and play, and for the most part, other than a couple plays early, if you watch the replay, the kid actually didn't do too bad. He may have a future in this league. But, being that as it may, let's get back to yesterday's game. Sorry, my microphone dropped, so I had to grab it. Let's talk about Jared Goff. The first half, I actually thought he was pretty decent. The second half, I'm sure you agree as well, and everybody who watched, just he seemed a little off. I don't know if maybe one of the hits he took kind of rattled his head a little bit, but some of his accuracy, which is normally one of his strengths, was off, and you could see it throughout the second half. I'm not going to say he got concussed or anything like that, but he did seem off, a little bit high, a little bit low with some passes. The pick, that was just a real big mistiming, misread between the receiver and the quarterback, and just wrong pages there. But now let's also talk about the good part of yesterday with the offensive struggles. Yeah, there's actually a good part to them struggling. When's the last time you could remember the offense struggling as bad as it did yesterday and still see the Lions pull out a victory? The Lions have relied on this offense last year and the early part of this year to power the team. Well, yesterday the offense was basically sputtering throughout half the game, and the defense still rose to the occasion. While we're talking about the defense, obviously we already mentioned Aiden Hutchinson in the pass rush, but let's talk about a player that needs to be talked about more. That's Brian Branch. Does anybody at this point, raise your hand if you're listening, anybody think this kid isn't an impact player, a playmaker, somebody who just can be a difference maker like few players in the NFL? I'll raise my hand because I do think he's just that guy. The flag he got on the unsportsmanlike conduct, unnecessary roughness penalty, I think when the NFL watches that, they'll go, yeah, this is probably a bad call. But you know what? Any team, any player, you got to live with the good and the bad. Sometimes the referees are not always going to get it right. I get watching that play happen live. You probably saw one thing. You watch it on replay, you're going to see something else. But whether it was that play, other plays he made, the one pass breakup in the first half where the guy looked like he just, shot up in the air to whap down that pass. Man, he got up there, and this kid, I think, is going to be rare. I think by the time you get him to season 2 or 3 in his development, you're going to have somebody who's going to be incredibly rare, impactful, a team leader, and, stop me when you heard this before, another Lions draft pick with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. Which, let's face it, if there's one thing Brad Holmes does exceptionally well, it's grabbing people with the personality types that, man, we were disrespected, we were overlooked, whatever you want to say, and they got something to prove. All right, what do we got? AG should be on the hot seat. Yeah, I agree. John Fox is waiting, but at least for a day, we could say this, T, that, the defense was one of the strengths of the team. They were able to get after it. They were able to get to the quarterback. They were able to keep things at bay for 2-0 Atlanta team. You can say who the Atlanta beat weren't the greatest, but one of them was the Green Bay Packers. So we'll see what that will shake up into. I'm going to do a deep dive matchup breakdown of these two teams. I'm going to try to go for it tomorrow since we only have a few days this week until the game. I will do a live broadcast of the game and try to give, like all the live casts, try to take you through the plays as they're happening. Hey, the defense has got too high, single high safety or whatever, linebacker over weak side, stuff like that, to try to help you guys out. I know a lot of you seem to enjoy that, so I'll continue doing that. Make sure you tune into the channel for that. If Ritter was a running QB, they could have been different. Yeah, and that's a good point. He is a mobile quarterback. He's just not one that appears to want to take off and run left and right. It is what it is. Phil, I'm guessing the offensive line changes kind of had him a little bit off. Yeah, I'd say you got a great point there. The offensive line, as we all know, man, at one point yesterday, they were playing the backup to the backup to the backup at certain spots. And that's just how it was. While they weren't as effective as we're all accustomed to over the last few years, offensive line, at least did enough job to have Gibbs get 80 yards rushing or whatever it was, 84. The offense moved the ball enough to score, but let's not make light of it. That offensive line, I'm really hoping come Thursday, Taylor Decker is back. It'd be good timing for him. Maybe Matt Nelson will be back. It will depend on how bad that ankle is. But getting Decker back allows Sewell to go back to his side, which already right there is going to be a big plus. And then, we probably have Glasgow for another week or so playing the right guard. Penei Sewell didn't have his best performance yesterday, but it wasn't horrible by any means. But getting back to some of the rookies, we talked about Brian Branch. Now let's talk about Jack Campbell. Obviously, everybody's going to notice the stat sheet where the kid gets the sack, but do you see him in pass coverage more and more? That's not a strength of our linebacking core, but it is of Jack Campbell. This kid can play. This kid can get out there, and he reads, for a rookie linebacker, I think pretty dang well. I'm not going to say exceptional or anything like that, but this kid can read coverage. He can react to the passes, and he's got some real power. I think we talked about it last week on Lions Talk Live. You could see a potential at some point, especially you guys mentioned John Fox, if he comes on for a 3-4 lineup from time to time on the Lions, where you see Campbell one side, Hutchinson the other side as the outside linebacker position. We know that Hutchinson actually does pretty well standing up and without having a hand in the dirt. Campbell does as well, and look at the strength when he's rushing the quarterback. We already know what Hutchinson can do, but look at Campbell. The couple times yesterday, the Lions did have him go after the quarterback. He's got an exceptionally high win rate. I would probably, without doing stats in my head or anything, probably say Campbell won about 60 to 65% of the time he went in to rush the quarterback. So I think it's something they experimented with a little bit yesterday. He had some pretty good success. Obviously, like the rest of the Lions defense getting after the quarterback. So it's something I'm anticipating we're going to see more and more throughout the season. Pay attention to that. I won't make this an incredibly long video, but I will say this. Yesterday's win, as subtle as it may be one of the bigger wins for the Detroit Lions franchise in the last, 5 or 10 years. Because if they dropped yesterday, they're 1-2, and you guys know it as well as I do, the Boo Birds would have been flying. It would have been a completely different day today for all Lions Nation than if they than what we got with the win. Sorry if I got a little tongue-tied twisted there. So a huge win, and wins help the body recover. I don't care what anybody says. That entire team, anybody who's a little beat up, dinged up, whatever you want to say, they're going to be feeling a whole lot better today than if they lost. But the same could also be said about the Green Bay Packers. They pulled off an 18-point fourth quarter to come back and win by a point yesterday. So the battle in Lambeau is setting up to be an epic one for Thursday night. Let me know your thoughts as far as score predictions in the comment section below. Again, I'm going to do a prediction video, matchup video, whatever you want to call it, tomorrow, a little bit earlier, but also we're on a shorter week. If you guys have any other thoughts, anything you want me to dive into, break down in that video or other aspects, go ahead and throw it in the comment section below. I'll try to get to them since I do have a little bit more free time this week. Excuse me. Got to get my morning Mountain Dew. Phil, what you got? Thursday's game is going to be really important. Without question, I think you're 100% correct. You win there, and now you have a mini bye. You know, Phil, I'm with you, man. We win in Green Bay. We're 3-1, first place in the NFC North, and now we have a little extended time to rest up and heal before getting ready for the next game. And I like our chances. I like our chances to really move forward here. You know, we just got to get some of these injuries back. But the good part about injured players is that you're also giving other players an opportunity to grow, develop, and show what they can do. Tracy Walker, while he nearly pulled off the miraculous pick yesterday, played very well. And, you know, we all talked about last week how one of his strengths is coming up and playing the run. Atlanta was a matchup, in my opinion, for him to come back against. You also saw they left Iffy in the single high safety spot whenever they did drop Tracy Walker into the box, and that kid did make plays. If he didn't have a bad day, you know, I don't think he's Kirby Joseph, but you know what? Give the kid credit. He also didn't mess anything up that impacted the team negatively. So, anyways, I'll get out of your hair for now. If there is some breaking news, I'll get to you guys as quick as possible. But my anticipation, we talked about it a little bit last week. Brad Holmes is probably working the phones last night and today. There are a couple things I know I talked in the post-game show yesterday about, thinking that the Lions really need to address sooner versus later if they want to be legitimate contenders in the NFC. We'll see what he does, but I know he made some calls last week. He's probably going to kick some tires again today. But you guys take care, enjoy your day, and I'll see you either later today or tomorrow on the next Lions Talk Live.